I paid my stepson's bills for 5 years. Then he screamed I ruined his life at a church potluck. Hi, I'm Mark Davis, 54, and last Sunday, my stepson stood up in a church fellowship hall packed with neighbors, co-workers, and 3 dozen crockpots, and screamed at the top of his lungs. He ruined my life. I didn't flinch, didn't raise my voice, just reached into my coat pocket, pulled out a plain manila folder, and slid it onto the folding table like it was the bill for a very long, very loud meal. Silence. The kind that makes your ears ring. I'm a forklift operator from Tulsa, Oklahoma. Been working graveyard shifts at the same warehouse since '97. I like my boots broken in, my coffee burnt, and my bills paid before they're due. I'm not the guy who picks fights. I'm the guy who shows up with jumper cables and a spare pair of gloves when your radiator explodes in January. But you push a man long enough, feed him silence where support should have been, and eventually, he stops swallowing. His name's Tyler. 27, good jawline, better excuses. He's been calling me bro since he was 13 and old man since he was 20. And for the last 5 years, I've been bankrolling his life like I owed him back rent on his childhood. And maybe I did. Maybe I felt like I had to prove something because I walked into his life when he was already a teenager, already angry, already used to being disappointed. I married his mom, Claire, 10 years ago, and I meant every word when I said I'd be there for them both. But what nobody warns you is how quiet resentment sounds. The night everything cracked open started with a text. Claire sent it while I was finishing my shift. Dinner at Sonny's. 6:45. Tyler's coming. Please don't make it tense. Funny how I'm the one who gets the warning. Like I'm the stray dog she's hoping won't bite the neighbors. So I show up. Sonny's barbecue off Route 66. Place smells like smoked meat and burnt sugar. Claire's there already, fiddling with her napkin. Tyler's across from her, sporting a fresh fade, designer hoodie, and the kind of look that says he's only halfway here. I sit down, say hey, get a grunt in return. We order. Ribs for me. Chicken sliders for him. Claire gets a salad like she's trying to be the glue that holds the awkward together. Then, out of nowhere, Tyler leans back, smirks, and says, "You know, my real dad just bought a boat. A damn boat. And here we are eating cornbread off paper trays." Claire goes stiff. I glance at her, waiting, hoping she says something. She doesn't. Just stares at her salad like it owes her rent. I keep my tone easy. Good for him. Hope he doesn't drown. Tyler snorts. Yeah, well, at least he doesn't pretend to be something he's not. Claire mutters his name. He waves her off. No, it's fine. He wants to play provider? Let's talk about the fact my phone got shut off last week. I blink. Because I canceled it, I say calmly. You said you were switching carriers 2 months ago. You could have warned me. I did. In writing. 3 times. He slams his tray down hard enough the sauce jumps. You think just because you signed a few papers that makes you a father? That hit. Not because it was new, but because it still landed. I looked at Claire. She didn't even lift her head. That was the moment. The shift. I didn't yell. I didn't storm out. I finished my ribs. And when I got home, I pulled out every receipt, every bill, every account with my name on it, and his fingerprints all over it. And I built a folder. The kind that makes a fellowship hall go quiet when you lay it flat on a table. Monday morning, I woke up before my alarm like always. Years of warehouse shifts will do that to you. But instead of lacing up my work boots and heading out the door, I sat at the kitchen table in my robe with 2 cups of coffee. One for now, one for the moment I needed backup. I opened that manila folder again. First page, Verizon account. 5 lines. Only one of them mine. Next, a car insurance policy with my name on it, covering a Civic Tyler drove like it was invincible. A car I co-signed for after he swore he just needed help for 6 months. That was 3 years ago. No payments from him since year 1. I flipped through more. An apartment lease with me listed as a guarantor, a storage unit I'd never seen, and a Best Buy credit card I didn't even know we had until the late notice came in my name. It was like slowly realizing your wallet's been leaking for years, and you've just gotten used to the wet spot. I didn't feel rage. I felt embarrassed, not just because I'd let it get this far, but because deep down, I knew why I had. I wanted to be the guy who fixed things, the stepdad who earned the title. I wanted Claire to look at me and say, "Thank you for showing up when he needed someone." But she never did. She just watched me hand over money like it was expected, like it was baked into the vows. That morning, I started making phone calls. Calm, boring, Necessary calls. Hi. Yes. I'd like to remove a user from my cell plan. Yes, I understand that'll terminate their service. That's the point. Hey there. I need to cancel insurance coverage on a vehicle. No, I don't drive it. My stepson does. Not for much longer. Each time, I felt a little less like a doormat and a little more like a man with a spine. That night, Claire asked why I wasn't eating. I said, I'm adjusting my appetite. Been swallowing too much for too long. She blinked, not getting it. Tyler hadn't told her yet. That was fine. He would. And he did. 2 days later, right after he got a notice from the apartment complex that he needed a new guarantor or he'd be given 30 days to vacate. Then his phone died. Then his car insurance lapsed. Then came the calls. First to me. Then to Claire. Then, according to mutual friends, to anyone who'd listen. He just cut me off, no warning. He's trying to ruin my life. Can you believe this guy? Calls himself my stepdad? Claire tried to guilt me into undoing it. He's panicking, Mark. I nodded. So was I, the first time the electric bill showed up $200 over because he left the heat on for a month in an apartment I don't live in. He's struggling. He's 27. He's your... No, I said. I was his safety net, not his stepdad. And he cut the cords first the day he looked me in the eye and called me a placeholder. She stared at me like I'd said something cruel. Maybe I had, but it was also the first true thing I'd said out loud in a while. By the end of the week, Claire's silence got louder. She didn't argue, didn't apologize. She just moved through the house like a ghost, like someone trying not to bump into a truth she didn't want to see. Then came Sunday. The church potluck Claire insisted we attend. We can't hide, she said. People will notice. They already have, I said. She didn't ask what I meant. I brought the manila folder, and Tyler brought the drama. The fellowship hall at Grace Chapel smelled like chili, powdered creamer, and the kind of coffee you can strip paint with. Kids were darting around in socked feet. Old-timers parked at tables gossiping over deviled eggs, and the walls buzzed with that small-town warmth, the kind that turns lukewarm the second something real walks in. Claire and I walked in side by side. Not together, not really. More like two people pretending not to be unraveling in front of people they bake cookies with once a quarter. Tyler was already there. I spotted him by the folding table near the dessert trays, hands moving fast, voice louder than the room warranted. His sleeves were pushed up like he was gearing up to carry a cross, and my name was coming out of his mouth like it owed him money. He just cut me off, I heard him say, like we were strangers. No warning. Took everything. My car, my phone. Got me evicted. Like I'm some leech. A woman from Claire's knitting group leaned in, concerned. Your stepdad? Tyler scoffed. He's not my anything. Claire's fingers tightened around my arm. Mark, she whispered. Don't. Too late. Tyler spotted us. His whole body shifted, like he'd been waiting for a cue. He stepped forward, voice rising like he was trying to project to the back pews. There he is. Mr. Generosity. Want to tell everyone why you've decided to ruin my life? The room didn't go silent immediately, but it slowed. Forks paused. Conversations trailed off. A kid dropped a cookie. I didn't raise my voice. I just walked over, set the manila folder on a table next to a casserole dish, and said, You sure you want to have this conversation here? Tyler crossed his arms, defiant. You don't get to control the narrative, old man. Good, I said. Let's stick to facts then. I opened the folder. First page, Verizon account summary. 5 lines. For in Tyler's name. Paid in full, every month, by me. Second page, auto insurance policy. Civic, registered to Tyler. Insured under me. Cost, $146 a month. 3 years running. Third, storage unit contract. My ID, my signature. Contents, unknown. Fourth, lease addendum for a 1-bedroom in Broken Arrow. Guess whose credit wasn't good enough to qualify solo? The church hall got real quiet. Someone whispered, Damn. Tyler's face reddened. So what? You helped. That doesn't give you the right to yank it all away. I didn't yank anything, I said evenly. I gave written notice, followed every contract, and stopped paying for things that weren't mine to carry. You did it to punish me. I did it because you stood across from me and said I was just to fill in. And your mom said nothing. All eyes turned to Claire. She froze, coffee cup halfway to her lips, her mouth open like she'd lost the script. Tyler looked betrayed. Mom. She opened her mouth, closed it. and the silence that poured out of her said more than any defense she could have given. Across the room, someone muttered, "Phew." Another cleared their throat. A third started fiddling with the church raffle tickets like it might rewind time. Then Claire's ex, Darren, Tyler's biological dad, who hadn't paid child support in over a decade, decided now was his moment. "This is pathetic," he scoffed. "Family matters shouldn't be aired in public." I turned slowly. "Then maybe you shouldn't have encouraged him to mock the man who paid his bills for half a decade." Darren bristled, took one step back like I'd shoved him. "You're all crazy." "Maybe," I said. "But at least we're finally being honest." I slid the final document forward, a credit card application with my information, my social, but not my signature. This was opened 3 months ago, by someone using my name. Guess who had access? Tyler's mouth opened, but Claire got there first. "Mark, don't." I looked at her. Really looked. "You knew?" She looked down. And that was it. I closed the folder. "I'm done," I said, and walked out into the cold January air, my boots crunching against the ice. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt finished. The cold slapped me awake the second I hit the parking lot. Oklahoma winter doesn't care about your personal growth. It just bites. I stood there for a second, breath fogging, heart pounding in my ears louder than the church bells ever rang. I heard the door swing open behind me. "Mark." Claire's voice chased me down like a gust of wind. "Wait." I didn't turn around right away. She caught up beside me, face red, breath shallow, her Sunday shoes crunching across the frostbit sidewalk. "You didn't have to humiliate him," she said, voice low and desperate. "He's spiraling." "I didn't humiliate him," I said. "He did that on his own. I just stopped covering it up." She looked like I'd slapped her. "You think I wanted this?" she asked. "You think I planned for him to fail?" "I think you planned for me to stay quiet." That landed. She flinched. "He's our son." "No, he's your son." I was just the wallet that didn't argue. Silence. The kind I knew too well. I looked her square in the eyes. "You used my name, Claire. You opened credit lines behind my back. You knew about the card." She blinked, looked away. "It was just for emergencies." "Whose?" I could see her searching for a spin, a patch, anything to stop the bleeding. But there wasn't one. Not anymore. Then her phone buzzed. She glanced down. I watched her face drop. "It's Tyler," she whispered. "He's at the apartment. The landlord left a notice on the door. He says he's locked out." I nodded. "Sounds like the system's working." She snapped. "He has nowhere to go. He has 100 chances he wasted. He's 27, not 7. And if he wants to act like I was never a father to him, then he gets to learn what life without one feels like." She covered her mouth with one hand, like the wind had knocked the air out of her. "I can't believe you," she said. "No," I said. "You just finally do." I left her standing there in the parking lot, churchgoers trickling past like they hadn't just witnessed the most righteous potluck showdown of the decade. I climbed into my truck, started the engine, and let the heater roar to life. Then I sat there for a moment. Not moving, not driving, just letting it hit me. All of it. I wasn't the victim anymore. But I sure as hell wasn't the hero either. I was just a man who finally stopped being quiet. And the noise that came after? That was the sound of everything I'd propped up, collapsing. I didn't go home that night. I didn't even try. Instead, I drove west on 244 until the lights of Tulsa thinned out and the road turned quiet. That kind of quiet you only find where gas stations sell deer corn and truckers nod at you like you've both survived the same storm. There's a motel near Sepulpa I've passed 100 times. Big yellow sign, roof sagging in the middle, and a vending machine that looks like it hasn't been stocked since the Bush administration. But they had a vacancy. I paid in cash, carried my duffel up the rickety stairs, and unlocked a room that smelled like bleach and old secrets. It was perfect. No one asking for rides. No one needing a cosigner. No one leaving dishes in the sink and bills unpaid. Just me, a lumpy bed, and a nightstand Bible that hadn't been opened since Reagan. I didn't sleep well, not because I had regrets, but because silence takes getting used to when you've been living inside someone else's chaos. The next morning, I made a list. Not a revenge list. Not a spite list. Just a truth list. Cancel Tyler's access to the storage unit. Follow up with the credit union about the fraud affidavits. Separate my bank accounts from Claire's. Freeze my credit entirely. Rent a P.O. box for anything financial, just mine. Call an attorney. Not to sue. Just to understand. It felt like sweeping glass off a floor you didn't shatter, but kept walking across barefoot anyway. By noon, I checked off half the list. The credit union woman was kind. "You're not the first," she said softly. "It's always someone close. That's the part they don't warn you about." I stopped by the house around 3 to grab more clothes. Claire was home. She opened the door like she'd been waiting by it. "You're staying at a motel?" she asked, voice small. "For now," I said, stepping past her. "Mark, this is our home." "No," I said. "This was my home. You made decisions without me. That changed things." "I panicked," she said. "He needed help. I needed honesty." That ended the conversation. I packed in silence. Jeans, flannel, razor, my dad's watch, a photo from the garage wall of my first fishing trip with my brother. The little things that make a place yours. Before I left, I opened the hall closet, pulled out the fireproof safe, and took the paperwork, deeds, birth certificates, retirement forms, and slid them into my duffel. Claire stood at the bottom of the stairs, arms folded like armor. "You're really doing this," she said. I nodded. "I should have done it years ago. I didn't mean to betray you." "I know," I said. "But you still did." I didn't slam the door when I left. I just closed it. Soft, like laying something to rest. By Wednesday, Tyler was in full freefall. He'd blown up my phone with texts I didn't answer. The first few were classic guilt grenades. "Can't believe you'd do this to me." Then came the pity bait. "I'm homeless because of you." Finally, the threats. "You'll regret this." I swear to God. I didn't respond to a single one. I wasn't being cold. I was being done. That night, around 11 p.m., I was sitting on the motel bed in sweatpants, sipping terrible vending machine coffee, when Claire called. "Tyler's at Derek's," she said, voice low, like she was ashamed to say it. "Your ex?" I asked, setting the cup down. She sighed. "He showed up with a duffel and nowhere else to go." I didn't say what I was thinking, about how poetic it was that he ended up with the man who bailed on parenting him in the first place. Instead, I just said, "Okay, okay," she echoed, like she expected more. "What do you want me to say?" "He's hurting, Mark." "So am I." That silenced her. She tried again. "He's your son." "No," I said, voice steady. "He's the kid I try to help. The man who looked me in the face and called me useless. And the adult who committed fraud using my name." She didn't argue. She just said, "This family's falling apart." "It didn't fall apart," I replied. "It rotted quietly while everyone told me to keep smiling." The next day, I met with an attorney. She was younger than I expected, wore sneakers with her suit, and listened without flinching as I laid it all out. Phone accounts, lease agreements, credit lines opened without my consent. When I was done, she sat back, laced her fingers, and said, "You've been carrying a load most people would have dropped years ago." I nodded. "Is there anything I can do legally?" She gave me options. Identity theft reports, small claims court, credit recovery steps. None of it glamorous. All of it necessary. At the end, she asked me something that caught me off guard. "Are you staying with Claire?" I hesitated. "I'm not sure." "Off the record," she said. "Most people wait too long to walk away from people who teach them how to disappear." That hit hard. I thanked her, shook her hand, and drove back to the motel in silence. That night, I sat outside on the cold metal stairs, drinking coffee and watching my breath fog in the dark. Somewhere down the road, I could hear a train rattle through the switchyard, and I realized I didn't miss my old house. I missed feeling like I belonged in it. There's a difference. Friday morning, the motel's front desk clerk knocked on my door, holding a padded envelope. "Guy dropped this off for you. Said it was urgent." I thanked him, tipped him $5 even though he looked too surprised to take it gracefully, and shut the door. No return address. Just my name. Inside, the Civic spare key and a handwritten note in Tyler's handwriting. "You win. Hope you're happy. I parked it on your street. Tank's empty. Insurance canceled. Good luck." I let out a low breath and leaned back against the door. So that's where we were now? Petty drama disguised as maturity. Fine. Let him call it a surrender. I didn't need an apology. I just needed peace. I drove to the house to check. Sure enough, the Civic sat at the curb like a dropped-off grudge. A bright orange parking violation flapped on the windshield. Claire was inside. She didn't look surprised to see me. "He's gone," she said quietly. "Derek kicked him out after one night." "Shocking," I said. "What gave it away? Tyler calling him bro, or running his mouth about how Derek's a part-time parent?" Her lips pressed together. He's staying with a friend. For now? I nodded. She paused, then added, he says he's looking for work. I didn't respond. Not because I didn't believe it. Just because I didn't care if it was true anymore. I want to fix this, she said. I looked at her. She looked tired. Not the kind of tired from work or stress. The kind you get when the lie you've lived inside starts to collapse, and you realize there's no clean way out. Then be honest, I said. Why did you let it go this far? She swallowed. Because I was scared. I thought if I kept smoothing things over, eventually everything would just settle. It never does, I said. It just sinks. She nodded. Slowly. I didn't want to lose you. You didn't lose me, I said. You gave me away, one compromise at a time. We stood there in the kitchen, the same spot where we used to drink coffee and plan weekend errands, and now it felt like a crime scene. Nothing dramatic. Just quiet damage. I want to make it right, she said again. Then tell people the truth, I said. Don't just let me take the fall for being the one who finally drew the line. Her voice cracked. You made it public. No, I said. Tyler made it public. I made it clear. I turned to leave. At the door, she said, are you coming home? I hesitated. I don't know yet. Because I wasn't sure this house would ever feel like home again. It's been 3 weeks since the potluck blow-up. Since the folder hit the table and the illusion collapsed in front of everyone who thought they knew our story. Claire and I haven't separated officially. Not yet. But I'm still at the rental near Sepulpa, where the tap water smells like pennies and the neighbor's dog won't shut up, but the quiet inside is mine. Tyler hasn't called. Not once. He sent one more text. Just a single line. I hope you're proud. I didn't respond. Not out of spite. Out of self-preservation. Because the truth is, I am proud. Not because I hurt him. Because I stopped hurting myself to protect people who didn't think twice about using my name, my wallet, and my silence. That manila folder? I still have it. Tucked in the drawer by my bed. Not as a trophy. As a reminder. Of what happens when you mistake enabling for love. Claire's called a few times. She wants to talk. Says she's seeing a counselor. Says she's trying. I believe her. Trying doesn't always mean staying. Sometimes it means owning your role in someone else's burnout. She asked me last week, do you think we can fix this? I said, I think we can be honest about what broke. She didn't like that answer, but she didn't argue. I've started walking again. Nothing big, just down by the river trail a few miles out of town, where the trees lean low and nobody cares what your last name is. I bring coffee in a thermos, sit on a bench with a view of the water, and let my thoughts catch up to me. I think about all the little moments I swallowed. When Tyler mocked me and Claire looked away. When bills came with excuses instead of gratitude. When silence became currency and I kept paying. Here's what I've learned. Being the provider is noble. Being the doormat is not. And there's a difference between supporting someone and shielding them from consequences they earned with both hands. If you're listening to this, and you've been carrying more than your share for longer than anyone realizes, ask yourself, if the people you're carrying were forced to stand on their own tomorrow, would they thank you? Or would they curse you for dropping them? That'll tell you everything. Me? I'm not waiting for thanks anymore. I'm waiting for peace. And that folder on the table? That wasn't a declaration of war. It was my declaration of freedom. Because when the truth finally speaks, the silence doesn't stand a chance.